Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today. And though you've come through many obstacles.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Stone Ocean, episode 18. So, we continue the fight between FF and the old man, whose name I cannot remember right now. The old cult leader who now has a very complicated dragon stand, who likes to stick his dirty old fingers in people's mouths, because he's a creepo. So yeah, this is fun, and we saw FF get their head scalped, but we know that FF isn't really the body itself, but rather the colony of sentient plankton within the corpse of Etroe. So FF will be just fine. This is going to be interesting to see how they defeat the old man, though. And then what do we have next? There was this other guy who was with the old man initially and just stood to the side while this fight was going on. Is that our next opponent? Will Anasui be taking that person on? We'll have to see. It's actually been a little bit since I recorded one of these, because it's been a bit since I've had to. But I remember pretty notably what's going on, and I haven't even seen another person's reaction to that episode yet. It's stuck in my mind for some reason. It's not even like necessarily one of my favorite episodes of the season so far, I guess you would say. But it for some reason sticks in my mind, so there's that. But either way, I'm excited to get to it, so we're just going to get to it. When the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then it fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So I'm very mixed on this fight, because on one hand, I don't like fights that are so one-sided that it's just a beatdown the entire time. Unless there's some good, like, narrative reason for that, where it can make sense and actually be, like, really fun to see. Like, if it's, like, a fight, like, after a fight has already happened or a confrontation has already happened and it's like the final fight between the characters. Let's go with One Piece, since I referenced it in the episode. After having a confrontation with Bellamy, the hyena, in the Jaya arc, Luffy ends up having to go confront him again because of the stolen gold of Mont Blanc Cricket. And so during this fight, Bellamy is bouncing around, hitting Luffy every now and again, but Luffy hasn't done anything. And then with a single punch, Luffy just completely takes out Bellamy. He knocks him unconscious and destroys him. It's completely one-sided. Even though Bellamy's the one getting most of the hits in during the fight, it's entirely one-sided on who is stronger and who is going to win. But the difference here is that there was a confrontation before, there was set up for this, so that the fight felt, when it happened, earned. There was stuff to build up Bellamy as an antagonist who needed to be taken out like that. In the case of these two episodes of JoJo, of Stone Ocean, we don't have that. Kenzo kind of appears last episode, and we just kind of have to deal with him. And it's so one-sided the entire time with him just overpowering FF that it's almost kind of unenjoyable to watch. But on the other hand, while I am usually not a fan of fights like this, I also do like fights where a main character can overcome the odds and defeat an opponent stronger than themselves using tactics. And that almost happened here. And I say almost because, as we know, Kenzo did not die from the electricity and had to end up being finished off by Anasui. And that's actually where my biggest complaint about this comes from. Anasui stole FF's win. And this is something that's been done in other parts too. Big example being, obviously, part 5, where Giorno stole a lot of other characters' wins. When other characters were fighting against someone, and then Giorno comes in at the last minute and just steals the victory. It happened quite a few times in part 5. And unfortunately, now it's happening in part 6. Because Anasui blatantly said he was not going to get involved in this fight. He said, like, I'm only here to protect you, plus FF said not to get involved. And yet he gets involved. Granted, he only got involved to protect Jolene. He was keeping to his word in that regard. And his Diver Down's effect only activated against Kenzo once Kenzo did attack Jolene. So, to be fair, yeah, he did really keep his word, and he was only protecting Jolene. But at the same time, like, from a narrative standpoint, from the standpoint of, you know, the series, he still got involved in a fight he shouldn't have gotten involved in. He still stole this victory from FF. Like, FF was still alive. We knew this. It would have been better if somehow, like, the water that was spraying from above started to leak down and started to help FF, and that would have helped them at least get enough energy to fire off one last attack while Kenzo was distracted by Anasui and Jolene, allowing FF to get like a headshot in and kill the fucker. That would have made more sense. That would have been more satisfying. But the ending of this fight, having Anasui just steal the win from FF, is completely unsatisfying. It's completely bullshit. And I'm not just saying this because I'm not sold on Anasui as a character yet, although that is true. And I'll get to that, believe me. I'm saying this because it just feels so cheap. And it almost feels like it kind of invalidates all the effort that FF put into this fight. And it makes them feel weaker as a character because of it. Like, you're hurting the image of your character when you do something like this. And it sucks because I really like FF. But this is not painting them in a good light. This is really not great for their character. I understand that Kenzo's stand was near invincible. But that's what you should be trying to do with this series, I feel. Making our heroes overcome the impossible. And FF was just not allowed to do that here. Anasui had to finish this fucker off. It's so disappointing. It's really fucking disappointing. And so, let's talk about Anasui. like I said, I'm not sold on his character yet. Because right now, he's only here for Jolene, and I don't support that ship at all. He wants to marry Jolene, and he thinks, well, he probably at this point thinks that he's guaranteed to because that was the quote unquote deal, even though FF never actually agreed to that. Um, but, and we know Jolene probably won't. But it's like, he also just hasn't sold me on his personality or anything. He's selfish as hell. He's kind of boring. Like, bring back Weather Report. He's at least nice. Weather Report's a good boy. This dude is. He just kind of sucks. Like, seriously. I really am not a fan. Um, I don't hate him exactly, but I'm not a fan of him. I don't like him. Um, and honestly, if he continues to push this bullshit with Jolene and wanting her to marry him and shit, it's gonna definitely get worse for me. Um, it's just so dumb. And again, I ship Jolene with FF and Hermes, um, so it's like I very much am not for this at all. Plus, and there's even other reasons too. Um, because it's like if Jolene accepts this, especially, I'm gonna feel like that's entirely bullshit because Jolene would not, based on her personality and character that we've seen. Um, and on top of that, I don't want her character as the first and only female JoJo to be tied down to a man having her uh having her like being forced into this relationship just because she's a girl, basically. I really hate when a lot of shows or movies that focus on main female characters do that. They have to tie the female character's self-worth to a man instead of just letting them, be on their own or even have a girl closer to them than that. It's one of the many reasons why I love Carol and Tuesday so much, because they almost teased that idea of like Tuesday getting together with someone, but they actually actively chose to go against that trope and have it not work out and instead have Tuesday just stick with Carol. And even though nothing was ever confirmed, I still think there's blatant obviousness that Carol and Tuesday had feelings for each other. I think it's so blatantly obvious that it doesn't need to be said. Kind of like Roy Mustang and Risa Hawkeye in Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. Nothing is ever said about them having a romantic relationship, but it doesn't need to because it's so fucking obvious that it's like it's not funny. So I just don't want Jolene to fall into that trap, to be locked down by a man that is tied to her self-worth as a character. I feel like this could very easily fall into that, and I really don't want it to. And because it's not just a trope, but it's a it's something that has been plaguing female characters in media for a long time. Every time like there's this strong female character, it seems like so many of the examples often do that. Often make them only strong in everything and only worth it because they have this strong man tied to them as well. And it's like, I hate that. Not every strong female character needs a man. Just They just don't. It's just a really outdated trope and everything. And it's like, it's honestly kind of sexist. Because it's basically saying that a woman has no value without a man by her side and everything. And that's why it's different when it's like, oh, you can still ship her with FF or Hermes, a non-binary character and a female character, because it's not the same situation. It's not built upon the same practices that Hollywood and whatnot have been known for. It's different than having a woman tied down to a man than if you had a woman with another woman or with a non-binary person, because again, the context behind it. So, yeah. I just really hope this series does not make Anasui and Jolene a thing. For that reason, but also just because I don't like them. And I'll admit that part of it is just I don't like them as a couple. I don't think it would work. I don't think it would make sense. I don't think anything about it would at all fit within the narrative that Stone Ocean has weaved so far, especially with Jolene's character. It just would not make sense. Honestly, there's not much else for me to say about this episode. Really, all I needed to talk about was the stuff with FF having their kill stolen by Anasui. Because it's like, again, the episode with the way it was made and the way that Anasui had to save them and had to defeat Kenzo in the end. It was clearly meant to show that there really at that point there was nothing apparently that FF could do. It just made FF look bad and made Kenzo look good. Yeah, thinking about it and talking about it more during these afterthoughts, I think it's pretty clear to me. I just don't like this fight. This is probably my least favorite fight in the part so far, and possibly one of my least favorites in all of JoJo. It honestly pisses me off. The more I think about it, it just angers me more and more. Because it's like, it had so much potential to be good, and so much potential for FF to get a really strong win against an opponent stronger than them. And then it fucked it all up. It fucked it all up and just completely ruined it at the end. I already mentioned before what would have been a good way to end it, with having FF be the one to land the killing blow still and being the one to finish off Kenzo. And them causing Kenzo to be electrically shocked as well. That's not a big victory for FF. It's really not, because it didn't work. It didn't work, and so it doesn't matter. It was just an attack. It wasn't what finished off Kenzo at all. So, yeah, it's just... We're going to move on from this. So, when the screen fades to black... Or, what am I saying? See, now I'm mixed up. I'm Connie, I'm signing off. See you all next time.